welcome to this webinar or leadership leaves lecture from TimesPro, and one very interesting topic on distributed technologies, especially in the area of FinTech. And we have Rakesh Ranjan to do the honors. And before I hand over the platform to him, let me have the pleasure of introducing him to all of you formally. He is currently the Chief Digital Officer at Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. And before that, he has got, I think, marquee illustrious career in the area of technology. After having completed his engineering from the all well-known with the Reliance of Technology Mesra, he also has done his executive programs from IIM Calcutta as well as Indian School of Business. And he started his career with the Steel Authority of India Limited as assistant manager, where he worked for 4 years and 2 months. And after that, he was with TCS for 5 years and 8 months as assistant consultant. And after that, he was with Accenture as a delivery manager for 7 years and 2 months, and where he had the pleasure of working with delivery manager for medium to large SAP retail projects. And after that, after TCS, he has got into, I think, the most well-known project in India, the digital transformation project that India has ever seen, that is UIDA, Government of India, where he was the general manager for 4 years and 6 months. I'm sure you will have a lot of things to say, or some of you might pick up his brain on the kind of path-breaking work that has happened, the kind of foundation that it has laid for India. All of us are part of that Aadhaar card that you and I know of, right? And then after that, he was with National Skill Development Corporation as consultant for 1 year, and he has worked on a very short assignment with NSDC as IT expert. And of course, after that, he still worked multiple stints. And immediately after that, he founded his own company called Armed Online Healthcare Private Limited as a founder director for 2 years. So, you can see that entrepreneurial angle also to him. And after that, he was with Bankable Frontier Associates as a consultant associate, as well as senior associate for 2 years and 4 months. And like I said, he came back to NSDC, right, as a senior head of IT, and where he was with them for 6 months. And he also worked on one specific sector called Skill Council for NESCOM as a member of NESCOM ITS SEC Governing Council for 4 months. And after that, he was with SpringMed Health IT Solution Private Limited as a founder director, another entrepreneurial venture for him, and where he was with them for, he was running for 2 years and 9 months. And since 2022, he has been with the Reserve Bank of RBI's Innovation Hub. It's called the Reserve Bank Innovation Hub. Joined as a chief product manager, and right now he's chief digital officer. And like I said, he's going to talk to us on this very interesting topic called as distributed technology, and how do you expand this for fintech footprint that all of us are witnessing in a big way in the last couple of years, especially after the pandemic. But even before that, the footprints have already began. So I'm sure all of us are going to have wonderful insights and all the kind of actionable insights, I would say, from him. And thank you so much, Rakesh, for joining us, especially on a Saturday evening. And look forward to having your thoughtful perspectives on this wonderful topic. Over to you, Rakesh.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful weekend. Thanks for a long introduction. Of course, after 30 years of working, it takes at least 5 minutes to cover all the roles that I have performed in the past. But yes, currently I'm Chief Digital Officer at Reserve Bank Innovation Hub, which is a very exciting role that I'm into. Definitely, I'm looking at how the ecosystem is emerging in the financial sector, and how people are thinking about various innovations that can lead to better services, better customer experience, efficiencies across all the business processes that they run. So just a fortunate part of the journey, and definitely there's a role that I'm playing with the ecosystem players in implementing these solutions. So thank you again, TimesPro, Dr. Chaudhary, and all the colleagues at TimesPro for having me here. So let's get back to the topic, that is distributed ledger technologies expanding fintech footprint. So since last few years, there is a buzz. I'm sorry, I've not shared my screen. Sorry. Give me a second. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Rakesh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so I was talking about DLT. So since last few years, there is a buzz around emerging technologies artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum, immersive AR, VR, IoT, robotics. And in this context, DLT is also considered one of the emerging technologies which will drive innovation, efficiencies, and transformations across all these sectors. So I'll be referring mostly to the financial sector in my discussion ahead, and also be referring to DLT as blockchain because that's the most popular implementation of DLT. So DLT is not a new concept. All of us know. Papers were published way back in late 80s and 90s on DLT, but somehow no one took this seriously until Bitcoin was launched in 2009, when everyone realized that the technology holds immense potential to enable businesses in distributed world. And it's a robust technology, scalable, and even secure, much more secure than what we have even today. So traditionally, system designers have taken an approach where the data is controlled by a central authority, whereby addition, updation, deletion of data requires intermediary or the authority itself to come in, which may lead to delays, may lead to additional cost, may lead to friction in the entire process. And this also results in siloification of data, which means that the data is controlled by limited few and the visibility is not adequate, right? So DLT is kind of seen as a technology which can beat the siloification of data, which was a result of the approaches that encouraged centralization of data and establishing of authorities that managed it, right? And before I go deeper, let me just make a disclaimer here that whatever I am talking here are my personal opinions, right? And not necessarily are the opinions or stance of Reserve Bank of India or Reserve Bank Innovation Hub, Government of India, or banks, or for that matter, any other public or private entity. So let me be very clear about that. So when I say DLT, I do not really mean blockchain, but yes, everything I say applies to blockchain because that's the most popular implementation of DLT. So of course, there are other DLT implementations too that I'm not sure how many people are really aware. By the way, we must have heard of few names like say hash graphs or directed acyclic graph, that's called DAG, Holochain, Tempo, Radix. These are other implementations of DLT, but blockchain being the most popular one, right? And you find this everywhere being discussed, being tried, being tested, being adopted, right? So, just a second, yeah. And and also there are many blockchains that exist as of today, like Hyperledger, Corda, Ethereum. All of us know Bitcoin is quite popular, and the one that started this discussion, the fever around blockchain, Stellar, Algorand, Big Chain DB, and there are many more, right? The hundreds of blockchains are there, if not in thousands. So let me go to the first slide. That is so now having said the spoke about the problems that the business are facing due to the simplification of data and the centralization of authority. There's a thought that why not ledgers be moved to a global network computers whereby the access improves in terms of the data visibility, the access, the control, and the time it takes to execute transactions minimizes, and even the cost that comes down. So the idea is to decentralize the entire thing, and that's where blockchain or DLT becomes quite relevant. There are many applications of DLT, like in banking and finance, supply chain management, healthcare, real estate, insurance, entertainment. Now, specifically coming to the banking and finance sector, we have been discussing with the industry very often on this, like what exactly are the use cases, what are the problems being faced by the industry. So a lot of good insights have come out, and I would say there are a lot of association consortiums as well in the industry which are really working towards identifying new solutions which are DLT based. Now, when I say DLT, again, it's a blockchain based solution, right? So, especially in the areas of KYC, which is a pretty good example of a pretty good use case where blockchain can be applied. Things like letter of credit, things like invoice discounting, trade finance, supply chain, and I've got a slide on that which I'll discuss in more detail. Just a primer on DLT. It's decentralized, no central authority which controls the network of the nodes. So I don't know how many are aware of this. So it's not a very centralized platform. It's like a network of nodes where computing takes place. And each node has a copy of the data that every other node in that network has. So essentially, each network is in itself a complete store of information. And of course, if it is completely enabled in its own, there's no single point of failure as well. If one node fails, other nodes take over, right? So that way, so data is not lost. So it's decentralized from that respect. It's immutable, which means that data cannot be modified once inserted in the ledger. And it is using cryptography, which is a way to make it secure and also ensure consistency of data. It's quite transparent in the way every participant in the network has a visibility of data that is being exchanged, being updated in the network, and they have a control over it. Any I would say erroneous transaction or any corruption or any potential of the corruption is being identified immediately, and an action is taken accordingly to prevent such things to happen. So veracity, consistency of data is always ensured. Security through encryption is always ensured in that network. So essentially, DLT is solving a lot of problems which traditional architectures haven't been able to solve, and at a much lesser cost. There are challenges too, which are there in my next slide. Sorry, in the following slide. So benefits are the transactions are much faster here. Now, since you can imagine any transaction that takes place in the financial sector, or for that matter, any other sector, there are many intermediaries which are dealing the transactions, right? Because the approval process is there. There's an application, a review, an approval, right? Followed by a payment that may be required in some cases. So transactions slow down. But in this case, things are automated, and nodes are actually quite self-sufficient, and they interact with each other to complete transactions within their own, in their own space. There's increased transparency in terms of the data which is known to all the nodes. Reduced cost. Now, if there is no intermediary, there is no cost. I would say a limited cost because there's no license fee, there is no transaction fee, right? We spoke about decentralization, which is the core of the design. Enhanced security because it uses cryptography with the most, I would say, the latest, I would say, the encryption algorithms. Smart contracts, that's a new addition to the DLT technology. I think it came around 2015 or so with Ethereum. Now that is driving a lot of automation in terms of how various entities start interacting with them in a more automated way. So the terms of the engagement are encoded in the smart contracts, and they're executed as and when the conditions are met. But yes, it's not that it's having only positives. There are some challenges as well. We have seen in a lot of cases that as and when the DLT grows, now when a DLT against a blockchain mostly, when the blockchain grows in terms of number of blocks that are added, we do see a drop in the performance. We do see the response time going up because it takes a lot of time to really add that block to the chain. So DLT as such suffers some inherent problems of scalability have been observed, and definitely people are working towards it. Just as an aside, there was a contest called Harbinger run by RBI recently. So in that, there are a lot of startup companies that came up with solutions which can really speed up the blockchain systems. And we do see a lot of work is going on in terms of how we can really uh, declutter, or in terms of is there a way we can speed up the block creation processes, right? So a lot of work is going on. Definitely, we'll see some more solutions coming our way, which can be adopted by the industry. One big problem with DLT, especially case of Bitcoin, is that it's a high energy consumption solutions, right? You will be surprised to know that Bitcoin itself, that network consumes around 150 terawatts every year of electricity, which is way more than consumption by most of the countries on Earth. So that's the kind of consumption these networks are, experiencing. One big challenge is the regulatory uncertainty. Now, a lot of regulators, when it comes to permitting solutions using DLT, they are not really sure how to regulate them, because if they are decentralized, if there's no jurisdiction defined very well in that, it becomes for a regulator to really regulate that in a very effective manner. So there are a lot of gray areas which are to be resolved. Definitely, the regulators are looking at it across RBI, SEBI, and many more regulators across the world. People are still, not sure how to regulate them effectively. DLTs are complex for sure. Not many people are aware of technology. The learning curve is pretty huge, so it takes time to really adopt such solutions. Coming to the use cases, now, if you see the use cases of DLT, again, DLT/blockchain. So we have really observed some of the banks, some of the countries having made good progress in these use cases. So I put 16 of them here, and I'm sure there are many more which are being considered. I would pick few of them because they are key to effective operations of the ecosystem. So first, I would pick is the decentralized KYC and AML. So KYC is core to any service, right? Onboarding a customer is a process whereby the service provider must know the customer inside out, so to speak. So once KYC is done, is it possible that the same KYC can be referred in other services across other providers? Now, is that possible? Rarely, correct? Because every time you go to a bank or to any provider, they ask for a KYC. You go the second time, you again do a KYC. You go to a different provider, they again do a KYC. Now, just think of a situation. Is it possible we put the KYC record in a DLT, which can be referred by anybody who's participating in that network? Let's say telecom sector, right? Can we have telecom company 1 and 2 share the same KYC record? If that happens, that's the most ideal way to handle KYC. So using DLT, it is possible. Technically, it's possible. I don't know when that will be approved, but yeah, it is possible. So some things are already happening here, and definitely we'll see a good number of implementations of decentralized KYC. Look at decentralized finance. In short, we say DeFi. Now, DeFi basically is built around a DLT actually. Is it possible that the various nodes in the financial system start talking to each other and start using smart contracts to interact with each other, right? Is it possible? Technically, yes. But is it permitted? I would say in a very limited way, because regulators need to look at many things before really approving such solutions for proper rollout. Okay. The third one I would pick up is cross-border payments. If you're aware of cross-border payments, if you make a payment, say from here to say US, it's not that the payment happens in one go. There are many hops there. There are many intermediaries which come in the way, in terms of approving or transmitting, or in terms of charging a fee. Now that takes time, that takes cost, and there's some friction in the entire process, right? It may get rejected. But the point is, can we use DLT for a cross-border payment? Technically, yes. If all the intermediaries are eliminated and the payer and payee start interacting through a node on the network. Is it possible? Yes, very much. Correct. So we can see the time to like transfer money from one location to another location will also come down. It will be like an instant payment, just as what you see in UPI, right? Other use case I can take is CBDC. Now, CBDC is a central bank digital currency. You must have heard of e-rupee, correct? Now, that's a new concept being explored by many countries, including India. India has just launched CBDC, I would say 8 to 9 months ago, and the pilot is currently on. A few banks are participating in that, but there are other countries like, say, China has done a pretty good job. Bahamas, they are one of the leaders in rolling out the CBDC, and there are many countries who are actually experimenting with CBDC. So CBDC is nothing but an equivalent of a physical a rupee bill, right? If you have 10 rupee bill, the paper currency, there's an equivalent in the digital format. Essentially, that's a that's a currency bill which is stored in a common ledger, right? So you might think a DLT could be the best solution. Well, countries have done it on a DLT on a blockchain. India has not done it, but it is still able to do that because we are following a hybrid approach. But that's sort of the scope of the discussion. So the point is, once you create a currency bill, you can't have a second currency bill with the same ID. Now, this can be done only if you got a ledger using blockchain, right? So that's a pretty good use case. But again, the number of currency bills you store on it, the scalability of the platform that is required may slow down the process. But again, there are ways to speed up the entire transaction, right? You can have offline method, you can have online methods, wallet to wallet. There are many other ways of handling it, right? But the point is, CBDC is one of the use cases which is being considered widely across many countries on a blockchain, on a DLT, right? Another key use case is asset tokenization. So I don't know how many of you followed the SEBI's recent notification on asset tokenization for the real estate sector, right? Now, each token of an asset can be monetized, can be used as securities, right? Just as you have a share, like a stock in a company, right? Can you have a portion or a fraction of that asset as one of your as your property or as your securities, right? So that's another area we are discussing, how we can convert the assets into tokens and then maybe start trading, maybe start exchanging for value. But that's again under discussion. So of course, once a token is created, it has to be stored on a ledger, which where it can be duplicated, it can't be updated, it can where it can't be tampered with because that's a store of value, right? Look at digital identity. That's the fifth block. Digital identity actually is a key requirement because again it will link to the KYC discussion we had earlier. Aadhaar, all of us have, right? Now having Aadhaar as an identity, and that's also something that can't be tampered with, right? And has to be made available to many entities, right? For accessing services, to prove identity from time to time, and for many other purposes, right? That's a key, I would say, implementation of digital identity. Trade finance. Trade finance can be domestic, can be international trade, can use the
Rakesh, not able to hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah, we can hear you.
you can
But
hear me, right?
yeah, we
I
can't
don't know,
see you physically.
something went wrong. Sorry, something went wrong.
Okay, okay.
Okay, sorry. So let me share my screen again. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, yes, absolutely, loud and clear.
I was talking about trade finance. Now, trade finance is one area where you can domestic or even international, where multiple sellers, buyers, intermediaries come together, right? Now, having a centralized system to run trade finance is a very slow process, very slow process. So people are really wondering whether you can replace such processes with, say, DLT-based solutions, which can, using smart contracts, can automate many interactions that happen between buyers and sellers and intermediaries. So that's one area where I'm sure an explosion will happen very soon. Okay. Clearing a settlement, whenever a payment happens from one bank to another, right? A settlement has to happen. Again, we don't want this to be this to lead to situation where uh, the settlement has an error. So currently, what is happening? There are entities, like the clearing houses, are there, which are really working day in day out to make sure that the payments are settled. At a clearing house level and also at RBI level, right? Now again, that's a intermediary that is involved, a clearing house, which also delays the payment. Takes there's a fee to that. Is there a way we can avoid it? Yes, we can avoid. Definitely, we can avoid by having a DLT based solution. Talking about the registries, this is one area which is already happening. You must have heard of TRI's Do Not Disturb registry and blacklisted registry, right? Blacklisted phone number registries, right? Similarly, we are talking about the registries, the fraud registries, and the banking sector, whereby if it is known that an account is a mule account or there is a fraudulent activity happening from an account, is there a way to blacklist it? Is there a way we can stop people, interacting with with the owner of that account? Okay, so that's one area. UPI payments, where we see a lot of frauds happening. Is there a way we can prevent by blacklisting those VPAs, those phone numbers, those people? Yes, it is possible. So again, there is an application of DLT in such cases, right? Digital payments, of course, we know that payment has to be only once, and you can't double payments cannot happen. Double financing cannot happen. There are many such constraints that are being looked at. So I'm sure blockchain can definitely solve a lot of problems. Others are okay, but yeah, these are the key use cases which we can discuss. Or you can have, if you have got questions, please be ready with them. I can answer them after I've completed all the slides. Now, coming to the challenges the DLTs are facing currently, if you look at the technology side of it, yes, everything looks good. We know there's a solution. We know we can solve many problems. But is it possible? So if you look at regulators' view, they understand that there's a potential solution using DLT. But again, the problem is, can they really regulate that? Why? The first issue is jurisdiction, because as such, a node can lie anywhere in the country, even outside of the country, right? Where a transaction can take place, right? Is it under the jurisdiction of that regulator? So let's say if it is RBI, SEBI, or maybe another regulator, are they having common jurisdiction? No. Even within India, outside India, they can have different jurisdictions. That's the big problem of network-based architectures, whereby the issue of who controls, who regulates can arise, right? So not every solution can pass this test, but yes, maybe in future we can see some convergence there. Now, coming to technology of it, now choosing a fabric, choosing a technology is not really what regulators do. They would define the activities, they would define the steps, they would define the risks, right? But they will not define technology. So, is it possible we agree on using, say, only maybe Ethereum? No, that's not possible, right? Because that's a technology being defined specifically, right?
So regulators will again want to stay away from that. They would want to just create an environment and not really prescribe a solution or technology there, right? So there's a challenge there, and it might lead to delays in issuing regulations and having open areas in the regulation of the of that piece. Third issue, what often comes up is the personal data and privacy related concerns. Now, a lot of people have raised concerns that if my data is existing at every node, is it not violating the data privacy? Now, that question may not be answered easily, right? Because it's a fact that data resides on all the nodes. Okay, so technically, anybody who's not even authorized to see the data can actually has actually access to it. Whether they see it or not, that's a different case. But they have an access to it, right? So, and then many countries don't even have a law around data privacy. India has it, many countries don't have it, right? So, in such cases, a regulator may not be comfortable in permitting such, such architectures, right? DAO, decentralized autonomous organizations, right? These entities are the actors in these DLT networks, okay, which can perform one or more actions like hosting of smart contracts or running of, say, mining services, can be anything, on the network. And these entities may not be legal entities, right? May not be a company. They may just be a module in your network, run by a consortium. Now, in such cases, look at the regulator's perspective. They might feel if something goes wrong, who should be held responsible? Who should be asked to pay for it? Who will the liability of it, right? Now that becomes a pretty sticky point in terms of whose neck has to be choked in case an issue is found or any I would say non-compliance or any kind of a fraudulent activity is detected, right? Coming to the governance, again, back to the smart contracts, how do we handle this on an open network when the entities may not be legal entities, right? So governance of them, the access, the documentation could lead to, issues. Next, smart contracts, though they're called contracts, but again, they are just programs on the network, right? They're not legally accepted contracts. They're not legally accepted means you can't present a smart contract in a court of law, right? So that's a problem. Now, who should be held responsible? That's again a gray area. Another key issue is intellectual property that is being exchanged on the network. Now, if some sensitive data is there, some sensitive information has to be stored on network. Technically, every node will have it, right? A copy of it. Is it permissible? Permissible? Would every player be ready to share that information? Again, there's not enough clarity around that. Okay. Coming to the liabilities and risks, as I said earlier, if it is not defined who the entities are, right? So who should be held responsible? So there are many liabilities related issue and the risk which are attributable to the entities who are not physical entities, can lead to such lack of clarities in the system. Lastly, how would you exit a blockchain, a DLT, right? Let's say there are 10 participants, one participant wants to move out, correct, of that network, but the data resides in the DLT. That entity's data is there in the DLT. Can the data be pulled out? The answer is not very easy, right? Because if you look at blockchain, you remove one block, the entire blockchain gets corrupted, right? Now, how do we do that? It is not an easy thing to do. Definitely, there are a lot of challenges with that. So these issues, and there are many more issues. I just picked few of them right here, which are really important to be known by people who are into policy design, people who are into decision making in their organizations. So with these issues, it is not really feasible to really scale up. Having DLT as your technology of choice. Okay. Now, lastly, I think I'm going very fast, but yeah, it's okay. Coming to what Reserve Bank Innovation Hub is doing in case of DLTs. So we are also having a focus area as the DLT because we believe this is going to be one of the key technologies that will be used by the banks in the country for enabling many services. So apart from the work we are doing, say in AI or in quantum or other areas, we have we're taking it quite seriously, work on blockchain. So last year, a pilot happened wherein we explored whether we can have multiple blockchains, make them interoperable, right? So we cannot define one blockchain system to be adopted by the entire banking ecosystem. That's not possible, right? Being a regulator, it is not possible. You can't define a technology, right? So let's say a bank one uses, say, some blockchain, bank uses some other blockchain. Can they talk to each other? It is not very easy, but now the solution is available. So last year we did a POC with 11 banks and three fabric providers, Corda, R3, and Billion. So the idea was we took the use case as inland letter of credit, which is something an information, if you understand, is information being shared by banks among themselves for lending or for financing of the sellers. In such cases, what is happening is if a LC exists in with one, can the entire ecosystem know about it, even though they're on different blockchains? So we tried on three blockchains and we came up with the Weaver protocol, which I think is IBM's proprietary technology. We tested quite successfully with this, and a report you can find on our website as well. It's already there. So it was tested and successfully we completed the pilot last year with 3 banks and 11 banks and 3 fabric providers. We are also working with this organization called IBDIC. That's called Indian Banks Digital Infrastructure Company. It's a new organization which is focused on promoting blockchain-based solutions in the country. So we are rolling out a solution very soon whereby invoice discounting can be moved to a blockchain, right? So let's say if I'm say a seller, right? Can I put the invoices on a blockchain so that if I take a loan on that invoice, and can the other bank get a view into that? So as a person who got, sorry, I'm a purchaser, sorry. Is it possible that I can put that invoice on a blockchain and every bank gets a view in terms of whether a loan has been given on that invoice or not, right? Technically, I can go to multiple banks and take loans from each of them, right? But having one bank know that the other bank has already given a loan on that invoice would just make the system more stable, right? So we are just working on POC with them, and I think it will launch in December sometime. So you'll hear about it, and if you follow our website and our LinkedIn page, you will find this being launched. And we are also working with the industry. We are also having roundtables with them to explore what are the new areas, and we frequently meet the CTOs, the CTOs of various banks, and we hear them and we do come across requirements which can be solved using DLT blockchain. Yeah. So that's our role. We are a new organization, just 3 years old, and definitely a lot of work has to be done. But for now, there's only one POC that we have completed in blockchain area, which you can see on our website. But I'm sure in next 1 or 2 years, we'll have many more such solutions which can be shared with the industry. So that completes today's presentation, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. I think it's quite a big canvas actually in a small session.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Exactly. So, first question that we have is from Mr. Saurabh Verma. His question is, for regulatory reasons, can the distribution be controlled, like for global to natives?
Yeah, so the point is, again, if you look at, and I'm sure Saurabh is talking about global to say domestic, right? I think that is what he means.
Yeah.
See, when in domestic space, as I said earlier, there are multiple regulators, right? Now, what if there is some requirement which has to be looked into, say, by different regulator. Now, let's say there's a discussion that happened between RBI and SEBI. RBI can regulate the banks and NBFC. SEBI can look at other entities. If there is a clash, definitely there could be problems. But yes, I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible, but may take some more time and the agreement between the two regulators.
Very good. Now, I think there are quite two, three other related questions, Rakesh. One is that now the so-called blockchain technologies, or the DLT part of it. Now, quite a few times, one is the fintech part of it. Again, in fintech, we are looking at the P2P lending and all that. So where somebody actually goes to different banks and start borrowing, so therefore, of course, you have the CIBIL scores and all that is there. But then, in some cases, what we have noticed is that, at least what is being reported, is that he pledges the same document in different banks, right? Maybe in a different avatar, but then therefore, so eventually they find that he has taken from multiple banks pledging the same document. Can such incidents be averted with the help of this blockchain technologies and DLT?
Yeah, of course. So if you look at, I just spoke about invoice discounting, right? Where an invoice can be pledged with a bank, correct? And a bank can disburse a loan on that invoice, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that can be shared across the network, definitely this can fix the problem that you just stated.
Right. Now, so which therefore brings to the other question is that now, since the DLT seems to be a unifying technology platform, architecture kind of thing, I mean, would any company in an individual capacity will have any role to play except that it can give access to, or let's say it can make its network interoperable, or let's say it can give access to it, nothing more than that. But then it seems to be that either it can be done by industry-wide body or a regulatory body like SEBIs and RBI world kind of thing, right? So therefore, what do you think would be the role of individual companies in different sectors, industries also, Rakesh?
So yeah, so that's my personal opinion on this. Companies can definitely invest into this, but since it's a network, right? Network of participants, correct? It always works as a consortium. It works better, I would say. I won't say best, but it works better because then there's a stake of everyone in that network, right?
Very good. Now, maybe, yeah, I think that's going to be the key. Now, let's look at other sectors, right? One is definitely fintech. I think people, this technology has been heavily invested into this, the sector. But then if you look at the aggregate tech, now people are talking about agri-tech is one. Other one is education. For example, let's say the UGS has launched something called as the ABC, the Academic Bank Credit. Now, that means from the childhood, for example, from the time, now I'll have to have different certificates. I have to put it in file and all. That's what all of us have done it. Now, with the help of this technology, Rakesh, is it possible for a body like UGS to ensure that every student in this country has, his records, academic records being, loaded in one place? So therefore, anywhere in the world he goes, right, he can look at it, and anybody that, of course, he can give access to it. So therefore, with all the security features being inbuilt, now can that be possible in the education sector? That's one. And the second thing is, how do you think this can be applied to, now the agri-tech? Because I think agriculture, we have seen a lot of startups coming there. And for example, let's say even simple thing like rain, when the rain, the weather forecasting, the fertilizers, and the kind of fertilizer that you need for specific soil, and then the kind of crops that you can sow for specific season kind of thing. So therefore, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and therefore the information is available, and also because you can track it to what you have seen, what we have shown some time back. How to look at this DLP applied in the education and in the agri-tech industries, Rakesh?
Yeah, so there are several life cycle based solutions, right? Where you record the life cycle events, of an entity, of individuals, right? Starting from birth, till end of life, right? So there are solutions already available, the platforms already available. Whether they are blockchain or not, I'm not sure about that, but technically it is possible, whereby you can store these documents, the events, the outcomes in a DLT, which can be referred by a larger ecosystem, right? As and when required. So when a child goes to school and applies for a job after passing out, all that can be recorded in life cycle based solutions, right? Which is technically possible. Yes.
Very good. And then last sector that I
No,
would
I
like
think
to...
I think the second question on agri-tech you said, right?
Yes.
So in agriculture, I can tell you we are already working on a solution which is like the lane marking on crops. So when a bank disburses a loan, say under any scheme, say Kisan Credit Card scheme, right, for crop. So when they mortgage the crop, and is it possible that the mortgage can be recorded in a blockchain, for example, right?
Mm, mm.
So another bank doesn't give a loan on the same crop. Okay,
Exactly.
otherwise a farmer can technically go to many banks and take loans, right, without letting the other bank know about it, correct? So which has already happened in the past. So we know there is a serious problem. Banks are struggling with this problem actually because farmers do this very often. So we're trying to fix this using a blockchain or maybe a different solution, which is not even blockchain. Yeah.
Sure. And the last question that I have is related to the same thing, but in different sector, Rakesh. Now, if you look at the insurance and the healthcare, right? Because I think that's again a huge pain point in the country, not just in India, but rest of the world as well. But definitely in India, because where the penetration of healthcare insurance is quite abysmal when you compare to developing countries, right? Now, I think. Do you think, for example, let's say the healthcare companies are, trying to, jack up the price for whatever reason, quote unquote, but the insurance companies definitely they want to minimize the risk or exposure to the payments and all, the payouts and all that. Now, using this technology, of course, somebody has to be objective because it cannot be from either one of the industries because they have their own skin in the game. Now, would you see or would you foresee some sort of a kind of convergence where the individual medical records can be hosted in some place, and therefore, whether it's a healthcare company or insurance company, then actually access. Of course, it's a confidential one, obviously. So with all the security features again in will. Now, do you think it's happening or it is going to happen, kind of thing? Because I'm sure it will be helpful for both the sectors. I mean, both the industries, healthcare as well as insurance, but largely for individual customers like me, myself, and somebody else.
No, that will be a desirable, a situation to be in. In fact, insurance premiums are high because the insurers do not have enough information about the person under insurance, right?
Right, medical
So,
history.
so the risk will be very high for them, and they will kind of raise the insurance premium as a result of that. Now, what if there is no possibility of hiding your health conditions, right?
Ah,
Just because you have your records in a DLT which can be accessed by insurers, right? In the real time. If you have more information, definitely the risk will come down for the insurer and the premium can potentially go down. Yeah.
absolutely.
And if
Yeah,
it goes down, adoption will go up.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Rakesh. I think it's been absolutely fantastic the kind of work that you and your team have been doing, especially at at a country level. I think all of them are really cutting edge, very progressive. By their time, we get to see. I think all the backward. I mean, see, people like us. I mean, the rest of the world, country as well. We won't get to see what's happening by done by people like you because you're preparing the country for the future, or you're trying to secure the future, kind of thing. Maybe there must be quite a few work in progress kind of projects, but I'm sure which are eventually going to benefit the rest of the country and also the rest of the world because recently I've seen the Economist report on FinTech. In fact, the very first article is on the Indian UPIs and
Yeah.
and the kind of fintech system. So, and the kind of ecosystem that India has developed. In fact, people talk about JAM, your Jandan, then Aadhaar and the mobile phones. I think those, I mean, that they are the harbingers of all the technology that we talk about it. But again, thank you so much for your time and the kind of things that you have shared, especially the kind of work that you're doing. And the use cases are amazingly good. I'm sure, like you rightly said, they're not exhaustive, but yes, I think they tell us the kind of potential that it has got to make everyone's life very, very simple and also secure. Thank you so much from all of us, Rakesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, TimesPro, and all the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
all the participants.